it gives me great pleasure to introduce Xiaoze tonight. He's currently a professor at Stanford, professor in painting, and we have his biography on the wall, but I wanted to just hit a few highlights that really bring this all together. He was born in China, and he received a Bachelor of Architecture from a university in Beijing in 1988, and a Master of Fine Arts from the Central Academy of Arts and Design, also in Beijing. And we're going to ask you later about what it's like to be trained as a painter in China. Then he moved to the United States in 1992, and he completed his Master of Fine Arts at the University of North Texas. So he has 2 MFAs, and he has several degrees behind him. And then after North Texas, he was an Associate Professor of Art and the Chair of the Art and Art History Department at Bucknell University, which is in Pennsylvania. And he was there until 1999, and now, as I said, he's at Stanford. And his studio is so fabulous. I had the pleasure of going to his studio, and when I saw the work in the studio, I said, well, it fits right here in the gallery. So it was beautiful. Thank you. And he's currently in a traveling show that is produced by Bucknell University, and it's traveling around the country, and that's called Amplified Moments. So we're so delighted to be able to show this work at the same time that a big retrospective of his work is traveling around the country. So please welcome Xiaoze.
Thank you so much, Joby. Thank you, Joyce, and thank you everyone for coming. No, it's not easy drive all the way from, some of you have driven all the way from Palo Alto. And all my graduate students are here. MFA students from Stanford. So excited to have everyone here in my family. My 2 friends from China. This is a very unusual show for me. So I guess I will try to be brief, but I'll try to put these works in the exhibition in some kind of context. Regarding the subject, people ask me like, why newspapers, why books? And newspapers are a little bit different from books. I think newspapers are like this very common, mundane, daily objects. Like one you pick up and maybe flips through the pages, and then you just recycle or treasure. No one really keeps such stuff. So it's an object with a transitory kind of nature. And instead, why it seems to contain all this information from epic events to like small details of life that are interesting. So this is the way I work. I don't set up the books or the newspapers for my paintings. I go into libraries and find these stacks of books, rows of books or stacks of newspapers on the shelf as organized by librarians. So the idea is not to sort of compose according to my intention, but to sort of find an existing corner, which you oftentimes is what you find is maybe more exciting than what you could arrange. And so I started painting books from 1993, something long ago, and then as I was painting books, I visited a lot of libraries. I was also taking pictures of stacks of newspaper on the shelves. So in 1998, I started to make paintings based on those pictures. And so my first painting of newspapers is called May 1998. It's a stack of Japanese paper from that month. So the earlier newspaper paintings, the stack is presented more as more like an object. A static object staged on a shelf with space around it, so suggesting the context of an institution kind of collection. And they're usually more muted in its palette, sometimes almost monochromatic. So they are more like still life paintings, and they are also low-key colors, slightly faded. You sort of feel like, everything gets forgotten, life moves on, who cares, that kind of feeling. So, but then eventually, I zoomed in and took extreme close-up views of a newspaper stack from the edge with the folded sides. And so, when I did that, I realized the content all of a sudden was pushed to the foreground. So then I was very hesitant to paint those pictures because I had no control over composition. Everything is accidental. All the pictures, the content is accidental, and then all the colors, the text. So I feel like formal is rather difficult. It's too busy. It's not unified. So it's very different from the kind of formal refinement that I was after before that. And it took me a while to sort of struggle with it and finally come to not just accept it, but to embrace it as a kind of a different kind of quality. So it's chaos, accidental juxtaposition. This is something that I think the content brought to a change of form. So I now sort of enjoy the busyness of and still a lot of people, some people still don't like it, and that's okay. So before that, while I was painting books and painting books, I was also making paintings based on historical documentation of certain events. I made installations dealing with the burning of books by the Nazis, which had influenced this installation. The destruction of books by the Red Guards in China during the Cultural Revolution. I've made paintings based on news photos. So I was also interested in the visual interpretation, narrative of history. And when after making a few of these close-up view of stacked newspapers with fragments of news photos and text, I got a feeling that I was able to pack all my interest into one single picture. There's the theme of the library, humanization of history, idea of time and memory, my interest in historical events, in narrative, in abstraction, in conceptualism, conceptual use of text. I think I was able to pack everything into one single painting. And so one friend commented that your paintings look like installations, and I rather like that. An art critic once said that to look at these paintings is like holding a remote control and flipping the channels. I think it's very much how it feels like. So it's, I guess it's trying to come up with if there's such thing as a history painting. Maybe I'm trying to negotiate my brand of history painting, which is a fragmentary view of history. Maybe it's a condensed or compressed kind of history. All these details, maybe it's a microscopic view of history. And in fact, I've used these terms in some titles in previous shows. So I want to mention a few words about the video installation. It's called Changings. First of all, it's not. First of all, the books fly in the air, illuminated by warm light from underneath. They appear to be glowing. There's this kind of golden light, but they are not actually burning. There's no flame. There's no smoke. It's just a theatrical recreation of the atmosphere of burning, not literally burning the books. And then the second thing is that it's not about any specific kind of book burning event. It's not about the Nazis. It's not about Cultural Revolution or other, book destruction event in history. I think it's more general. It doesn't have to be about book burning. I think these books fluttering in the air slowly and sort of they pass in front of us and they fall. I think it's about something more general, about thoughts, about ideas, memory being tested in time and space. So the title refers to that. And I would like, when I have a chance to come here without the crowd, try to listen to the sound check and watch the image. I spent quite a bit of time doing the sound check with the help from a musician friend and a composer friend. So I have to take full credit for that. And I also want to mention that we're lucky enough to have John Chen, the cinematographer for the piece here, is visiting from China. So I'd like to thank him for my if you are curious about the shooting of the film, maybe John could talk a little bit about
technically,
it.
just technically.
Yeah, sure. Would you talk a little bit about it?
Technically, we use the red one, the high-speed high-definition camera, and we use it's 1 second, 120 frames, right? 120 frames per second, and it's high definition. And we are in a French studio, at photography studio. We worked there for 2 days, and we have a bunch of people, right? And I was working on the camera, and Xiaoze, managing everything and control the feel, and also we get many help from Lao San. Yeah, the photographer.
Who owns the studio?
Yeah, and we get many help from other people. Like we use our camera assistant to work on set to help with the books. Like we control the movement of books. Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't notice technical details until we talked, and John is much more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So we were shooting at
that time
the speed of
experimental. Yeah, many times we experimented a lot of the times, right? Yeah.
So 120 frames per second, which is much higher speed than normal, like 24 frames per second. And then we slow it down in editing. We slow it down to normal speed, like 24 frames a second, but still too fast. The movement's still too fast. So I later use a newer software, which is called After Effects. Yeah, to further slow it down to about half the speed. So that's why we get this slowly, almost meditative kind of feel after.